I want to introduce Vikas Khemani also to this conversation that we're having this morning. It's an important one to temper the concerns that you're seeing in the market. And the concerns are valid because it's feeling like a bit of betrayal, for a better word. Vikas Khemani, I want to know what your thoughts are. We spent an inordinate amount of time trying to hammer out a deal and then to summarily just, be handed over some formula and then the back and forth on it. Do you think that the weakness we're seeing in the markets right now is an opportunity, or it could get worse? Vikas, the question's for you if you can hear me.
Yes, I lost the last part of the question. I don't know if you can
My
repeat
question
that.
is, do you think that the weakness we're seeing in the markets right now is an opportunity, or things could get worse?
So I think first of all, see, whenever these kind of negotiations happen in such two large economies, these kind of things are bound to expect. Let's not forget our UK negotiation lasted more than a year and a half, right? And of course, if you have to give away a lot of things, access to the Indian markets easily, I think those negotiations can be done very easily. So I think fact is that our government has done a great job in terms of protecting the interest of a lot of other segments. You can't kind of just agree to certain things and give away a lot of other segments because of long-term implications. So I think these kind of tactics are par for course happens in a long negotiation. Long kind of trade agreements. So I'm not structurally negative at all. I mean, this is, in my opinion, first of all, not a permanent outcome. It can be there for a quarter or two, but I am quite confident that the eventual outcome will be sorted out. There will be negotiations from both sides. Both US and India need each other. There's no denial on that. And I'm quite sure that this will happen. Having said that, there are, some segments which might get impacted, in a shorter term, but which is a very, very minuscule part of the market overall. Overall export to US is very less. And secondly, also impact does not have to be fully on the earnings. In the sense, a lot of tariff will be passed on. In shorter term, there might be some minor, impact can be taken on the margins, but I am sure eventually it will be passed on. Just like India controls 45% of the US medicine market in the generic space. I mean, they don't make that with margin to absorb. So it's a question of only a 1 or 2 quarter of time, which happens in many industries all the time. And secondly, I think partly currency depreciation can also provide some cushion, which we have seen. So I think I'm not
Vikas, I'm sorry,
going,
I'm just going to interrupt you for the latest truth social bomb. Trump has just put out a post. I just want to add that on to what our viewers are understanding right now. He has posted, I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, amongst the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and the USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way and tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia, who thinks he's still president, to watch his words. He's entering very dangerous territory. I don't know now what's happening and what the context to this is. Has he gotten off some call and then started posting out, and why India is getting dragged into this?
I mean, there's nobody who can call India's economy a dead economy. It is the fastest growing economy in the world. So I'm pretty sure that it is the result of some sort of a conversation that he has had, possibly.
But it's just ridiculous.
This is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. To have a post like this is just ridiculous.
And they can take their dead economies down together. I mean, Vikas Khemani, this is just breaking real time. So we're just putting out what we're getting real time. There is measure. There is something to say about measure, the way India responds. We're a mature nation. We deal through proper channels, etc. But now this is becoming vindictive, isn't it?
See, those who know Mr. Trump, I mean, I don't think I need to comment on that. We've seen he operates through Twitter. I mean, we saw what happened between the US and China for a very long time. And there was kind of retaliation, all those things happened. And then he nicely ate his humble pie and kind of withdrew from all his, and nicely sat down on the table and then did the deal. So I think there are lots of rhetorics which happens. I'm so glad that at least our government is not reacting anything in a public domain, working through the normal channels. I think Trump has its own way of putting pressure on through public media. As long as you don't get impacted by the pressure, and which is what I believe that I think entire Indian media should also act responsibly rather than kind of pronouncing it in a big way. Let government handle it its own way. One thing we must understand: we are a 1.5 billion people market. US cannot afford to ignore that market. They also make a lot of money from India. Apple does sales, Google does, all the IT company does a lot of sales in India. So see, we must understand that both US and China need each other. There's no denial on that. And apart from the normal pressure tactics, which negotiation, every leader has his own style. We all know Mr. Trump's style. Uh, so I'm sure it will get sorted out. India has put its firm foot when it comes to importing Russian oil, even in the worst of the times when there was a lot of pressure. So everybody knows US does what suits them all the time, and so in India with this kind of size and scale has its own way to deal in its own way. They don't need to preach anything that whom should we import oil from anywhere. And I'm not getting into the politics side, but that's the stance our government has taken, and I think I respect that. So I think we should not panic. Have faith in our system, and I'm
Exactly.
sure in fullness of time we will find answer.
No, I think 2 or 3 very key things. That one, a measured approach and through the official channels is really good. The other thing to keep in mind is look at where the action is happening as opposed to just post on Truth Social, right? So I believe what's happened is that the White House officials have said that reciprocal tariffs currently in place have exemptions for goods such as semiconductors, steel and pharma that are or could be subject to Section 232 tariffs. That's part one. And while all of this is happening, there was a Reuters report last night, right, which was speaking about how Google is setting up making a $6 billion investment in the state of Andhra Pradesh for making a data center headquarters of some sort, right? 1 gigawatt data center and a power infrastructure. So look at where the money is coming from. And there will be a case of eating the humble pie, so on and so forth. So I think India is actually dignified in trying to respond through the official channel. I kind of completely agree with what Vikas is saying.
No, that's fine. India will respond through official channels, but that doesn't mean that you can give a free pass to commentary like this.
Yes, certainly. No.
And as media, it is also our job to highlight what is happening.
Certainly.
We can't say that, oh, it's okay, no one cares what he says. He is the President of the United States as of this moment. And his actions do have consequences. You're seeing it on Indian markets, maybe relatively less. The fact that he's saying this is a dead economy does show a real inability to understand what's happening, and maybe it's empty words.
It's a dislocation from reality, because I very clearly remember a conversation with the three of us, Ben Powell, making a statement, nobody wants to ignore India, and this is the case globally. You're hearing about free trade agreements bilateral agreements being signed by major economies with India, and those that are being negotiated beyond the United States of America. Yeah. And it's very true. You cannot. And Vikas, a statement being made, for example, that apparently Pakistan has reserves of oil, and maybe down the line they will, the US will help Pakistan get those reserves and maybe sell them to India down the line. All of this seems to be scare tactics, pressure tactics, right?
Yeah, so we've seen President Trump since he has come to the presidency, that how volatile person he is, how publicly. I mean, his approach is very, very theatrical and threatening both. So I think there are a lot of times. I mean, he's been, which I've never seen in my knowledge of any president's history, who abuses the Fed governor, who is an independent institution. And we've seen all those things, right? But so hence, I would say that markets have started taking that with a pinch of salt. Like I said, have faith in the collective power of the population of both countries and need of each other of country. I'm sure in due course of time, Indian government will do its own work. They will do their own work and figure it out. Can US afford to not import medicines from India? That's a question one has to ask. If there was a time, and if you see 2 years ago, US FDA regulator first time came to India, stayed here for 15 days, met pharma companies. Why did they do that? Because of their regulatory overreach, there was a shortage of medicine in US.
No doubt, Vikas, no doubt that they can't do without us. Okay, I have one question for you, but just allow me to break the story. We have an important story, and then I just want a response from you, Vikas Khemani. So give us a couple of minutes. So we're hearing that the Petroleum Ministry is assessing the impact of potential tariff penalties. That's the exclusive we're getting from government sources. Shrimi, in fact, is joining us with all of those details.
Yeah, so the Petroleum Ministry, Tamanna, is closely examining the implication of potential tariff penalty as it's await the executive order from US at this point of time. In fact, sources tells us that Indian refiners have already diversified their crude sourcing and bringing in oil from suppliers such as US and Brazil, and in an effort to mitigate any kind of supply disruption. But sources do indicating at this point of time that since if the imports from Russia curtail, then that point India may need to further diversify its crude basket. And in fact, they are also saying that this may create some disruption given the point that currently India imports 35 to 40% from Russia, and that may interrupt the entire and push up the India energy bill. The sources also indicated that currently they are in talks with the refiners. They will be having a meeting with all the Indian refiners at this point of time. The Petroleum Ministry is having a discussion with all stakeholders. But if you see the numbers, Tamanna, we have seen that crude import from Russia has risen 8 to 10% in last few years, particularly after Russia invasion to Ukraine. So, the bill, if you see from 5.6 billion, it raises up to $58 billion, and that is huge. So that's the concern Petroleum Ministry is raising. However, they are studying and waiting for the executive order on that. In fact, if you remember on the tariff penalty, earlier this month, clearly the US President issued a warning saying that secondary tariff of up to 100% could be levied if countries continue to trade with Russia. And, recently it says that the penalty go up to 500% on India and China since they continue to getting energy supplies
right now
from Russia. So, at this point,
right now they're numbers, but the fact is 35 to 40% of India's crude is coming in from Russia for India, and diversification is always there. Shumi, good to see some green on the screen, even if it's from you right now in your frame and not on the markets. So thank you for that. So at least we have some green on the screen there. Shumi Chaudhary there in that Haryali, while as markets are completely red. Vikas Khemani, now this is the tricky bit. The fact is that cheaper crude, relatively cheaper crude, is something that the Indian economy needs. How do you think this moves forward? And would you look at more domestic focused companies while all of this settles in?
I think, see, India, if you ask me, is a very far more domestic economy than export-oriented economy. It's very well known. It is a story of infrastructure build-out. It's a story of consumption. It's a story of import substitution, and of course, related export. The export is a very small driver of this at this point in time, and nothing changes at, we are the youngest demographic country, which is kind of not only producing and consuming. So that continues to remain so. And I don't think this event writes off export story. Let's not, because ultimately India has its own core competence in the segment and sectors, and our tariffs are not worse off than China or anybody else, so that we become extra competitive because of this. So there could be 1 or 2 quarters of displacement, tactical adjustments that happens whenever there's a big policy change, and it will be passed on. So regarding your energy question, I think, again, we will have to wait and watch. Recently, I was hearing interview of our petroleum minister. He had very clearly said that they have already planned many sources of supply of oil, which they are anyway kind of looking at alternatively as well. And they were sounding very confident that if something were to happen, we have a game plan in place. So I think good part about our government is that they are very, very proactive in the inflation management ever since they have come to the power, whether it is food inflation or energy inflation, anything and all. And they have done, they understand this very well, that inflation can be a very big risk to our big growth story, which we are, working out. And I'm quite confident that the appropriate measures will be taken to manage that.
Because I'm trying to understand, what do you do in a time like this as a public market investor? I mean, is this a good time to sit on the sidelines and wait for the event to pass and have some clarity? Or would you preempt the possible outcome, which might be lower than 25%, and use dips, if any, to your advantage?
The fact that at a market open I'm chatting with you clearly shows that there's no point in reacting anything to that right now. You know, so
Sorry,
I was
Vikas.
looking at
I
the
was
prices
laughing out
about.
so loudly that I missed your answer. Can you repeat that answer again?
So the point is that tells you my approach that I think never react to these kind of situations. It is not structural in nature. It is tactical. It is not permanent. So, and it is not significant. So, I mean, so why to kind of, in fact, that market is only down 0.5% also tells you that it's not significant. Also tells you the response of the market by and large. And anyway, we are in a correction phase of the market for some time. Markets have done well, and hence it's good, nice consolidation to happen. Think about it, the bigger picture. As an equity investor, you always like to have a situation where RBI cuts rate by 100 basis point and liquidity infusion. That's a great scenario for equities, right? And markets have not still responded because of this whole tariff saga over last 3, 4, 5 months, right? Once this settles down, how much this would mean you can assess. So, in my opinion, I always say that what RBI governor has done and is doing is far more important than what Trump is doing, and hence focus on what is happening back home, focus on what is controllable. And I am sure there will be opportunities out of this also, and there will be risk out of this also. You assess your own individual portfolio companies, impact on that, permanent nature, temporary nature, and then make appropriate call. But today, I am sure nobody would have a proper information to make appropriate call, structurally speaking. And there's no point in reacting to any tactical thing.
Got it. Vikas, thanks for putting that into perspective in the best possible fashion, especially the last answer. We'll remember this, but really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining in.